guys, welcome back to the Friday Q&A. I'm just sipping some coffee here early this morning out of my biggie mug as Totoro takes a break. He is in the dishwasher. Today I'm going to be addressing all of your questions about the ability of different types of glass in our automobiles and homes, the ability of different types of glass to protect us from ultraviolet light and from sun exposure. I get tons of questions in this arena. I've been talking a lot in past, more recent Q&As about sun protection from clothing, sunglasses, so if you missed those, check them out. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Andrea. I am a dermatologist and I post a lot of fun vlogs of my life as well as skincare focused content and skincare Q&As. So if that type of thing is of interest to you, then I encourage you to subscribe to my channel for lots of fun and info. Now, to recap for any of you who may be new or just to summarize, solar radiation from the sun, there are actually three different types of radiation that you need to be aware of. First of all, there's infrared radiation, and we detect that in our brains as heat. It feels warm on our skin and or super hot in the summertime in particular. We detect that in our brain. We appreciate it. It is heat. The second type is visible light. Visible light encompasses wavelengths for general illumination and allows us to see our world, detect colors, and that is what we appreciate in our brains as brightness and light and seeing things and daylight. So in other words, in our brains, we are able to appreciate fairly soon that there is infrared radiation coming from the sun as well as visible light. But the third type of radiation, and what my videos largely address, is ultraviolet radiation. And ultraviolet radiation comes from the sun and has biologic consequences on the health of our skin. We do not really detect it in our brains right away. So it's very easy for an individual to go about their day-to-day routine, their weekly life, commuting to and from work, and receive substantial amount of ultraviolet radiation to their skin, and they never ever realize it. There is nothing that's going to trigger a clue in their brain like heat does or visible light. And over a lifetime in particular, that cumulative ultraviolet radiation exposure to the skin has profound consequences on the health of the skin. It leads to photoaging, wrinkles, sun damage, sagging skin. Importantly, it sets the stage for skin cancers and puts you at high risk for skin cancer formation. The rate of skin cancers, both in the United States and in other countries, is steadily increasing and is quite high. Thirdly, many diseases are exacerbated or worsened by ultraviolet radiation exposure. Within ultraviolet radiation, there are two types that you need to be aware of that affect the health of your skin. UVB is the part of ultraviolet radiation that we do eventually detect, many of us do eventually detect in our brains, and it's what's responsible for burning our skin. When we select a sunscreen and we read the SPF number on the sunscreen, that SPF number is telling us about the sunscreen's ability to protect us from a UVB mediated burn. So that tells you some information about how good that sunscreen is at protecting you from UVB. But the other major component of ultraviolet radiation that is underemphasized, and the majority of the ultraviolet radiation that you are exposed to on a day-to-day basis, whether it be indoors or outdoors, is UVA. UVA, while it does not burn our skin, penetrates very deeply into our skin, damages collagen, suppresses the immune system. We have mounting evidence, in addition to UVB, largely contributes to skin cancer formation and really can affect the health of our skin. People with certain skin diseases that are exacerbated by light are very sensitive to wavelengths of light in the UVA range, and they really need good protection out into the UVA range. I work indoors and I never go outside. Do I need to wear sunscreen every day? And the answer is yes. Because we have data and studies showing that indoor workers are exposed to, on average, about 7 standard erythema doses of ultraviolet light as part of just being indoors on a daily basis. What does that mean? A standard erythematous dose is kind of a quanta or a packet of of ultraviolet light that when delivered to the skin can impart a biologic effect. Specifically, it is 100 joules per centimeter squared, but do not, concern yourself with that level of detail. But really what it equates to is that one standard erythematous dose is enough for a very fair complected person to take their skin from their baseline complexion to a light pink of redness. And as further evidence from that, I will hopefully be able to insert a photograph here as an illustrative point of an office worker who worked in an office for 15 years and always sat in the same exact location. And the left side of her face was exposed, was on the window, was facing the window during her 15-year tenure in this office. And you can see on the left side of her face in comparison to the right side of her face how drastically different the amount of photoaging she has. So clear glass is what the majority of us have in our homes and in buildings that allows visible light to come through. It is also what is present in the passenger and rear windows of our automobiles. And clear glass obviously allows a lot of visible light to come through, but it allows about 72% of ultraviolet light to come through. And that 72% that comes through, it effectively filters out UVB, the burning rays, but it does not filter out UVA. So UVA comes in through clear glass very, very, very readily. One option that's really popular is to have the windows tinted for aesthetic reasons. It also reduces the amount of heat that comes through the window, so it keeps the car cool. However, it does not fully remove the block out UVA. It does about 3.8 times reduction of UVA that comes through, so a little bit, but not enough. Not enough to prevent photoaging, not enough to eliminate your risk for skin cancer, not enough to eliminate your cumulative sun damage, and not enough for people in particular out there with photosensitive skin diseases. The other type of glass that is important for you to know, and I get a lot of questions about, is laminated glass. Laminated glass is what is in the windshield and also in sunroofs. And laminated glass is a special type of glass that is basically two layers of glass with a polyvinyl interlayer in it. And that actually does filter out 99% of ultraviolet radiation. So your windshield and your sunroof, they filter out about 99% of ultraviolet radiation in total. Here's the key though. About 99% of ultraviolet radiation is filtered out up to 380 nanometers, all right? That is a technical point, up to 380 nanometers. Why am I telling you this? Because UV goes up to 400 nanometers, all right? So there's 380 to 400 nanometers there of UVA that's coming in, going in really deep, that still is not being filtered out. So there's still some UVA coming through those broader wavelengths. Still can age the skin, still can contribute to skin cancers, and for people with photosensitive skin diseases, still has the potential to kick off a bout of your disease. So don't be fooled into thinking that is 100%, but laminated glass definitely is a step in the right direction at boosting the sun protection for sure. Gets a lot of it out, and it is already in the windshield, and it is already in the sunroofs, moonroofs. It's also in a lot of airports. Museums will use it so that they can protect, obviously, the artwork from the damaging, ravaging effects of ultraviolet radiation coming through. So it's popular in a lot of buildings. It also insulates against sound. It's oftentimes used in recording studios. You can also have films applied to your windows that block UV. That is also a great option, but just be aware of the limitations of the wavelength. So ask them or pursue from the manufacturer what the wavelengths specifically are that are filtered out. It's really a subtle little technical point, but it's important, it's important for you to understand that it's really difficult for them to filter out 100% of UV, particularly those broader wavelengths, because they need to allow visible light to come through, and there's some bleed over between once we start getting into visible light and and UV, there's a little bit of a bleed over there that, you know, you have to allow some visible light to come through, and some UV is still gonna sneak in. So, you know, don't be fooled into thinking that the glass is gonna do you 100%, all right? Otherwise, you'd be in a black box and you couldn't effectively see out, and it wouldn't be safe for you to drive, for example, in your cars and things. The color of the glass also matters as far as the ability of the glass to block transmission of ultraviolet radiation. Clear glass is obviously useless at blocking UVA. Light green glass can block a tiny bit of UVA, and dark green glass can block a tiny bit more of UVA. So the color matters, and green is better than clear, but most of us don't have green glass in all of the windows of our home, and it doesn't block everything. Now, I mentioned that laminated glass blocks the most. Clear laminated glass in our windshields and sunroofs blocks quite a bit, but gray laminated glass will only allow 0.9% of UV to come through. So it is the best. Gray laminated glass. It is really allows the best kind of blockage. So why is all of this important? It's important for you to be aware of the fact that you still need to take additional measures to protect yourself from ultraviolet radiation, namely UVA that comes in through the window, because no type of glass is going to 100% filter that out. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to see when you were driving your car, because there is some overlap into visible light, and you need to be able to see, otherwise you're a hazard on the road. So you still need to take additional measures to protect your skin. Not to mention, you don't just magically appear in your car. You exit your home usually to get into the car. You leave the car. I understand you may be underground. I don't know. I mean, everybody's circumstances is a little bit different, but it's inevitable that you are going to go outside at some point, and you still need to have protection there. You still need to wear a broad spectrum sunscreen and reapply it consistently throughout the day. I say reapply it consistently throughout the day because if you put it on once, it wears off and then it's no longer effective. So, you know, if you're going to be indoors all day, put it on at least 3 times a day, just so you've got it on there. But if you're outside, you know, you definitely need to be reapplying sunscreen every 2 hours, as I've said in my other videos. And then wearing sun protective clothing, which I talked all about last week. Sun protective sleeves are great. For purposes of being in the car, the areas of the body that are most susceptible actually are the driver's window side posterior shoulder area back here. I mean, skin cancers arise here quite commonly. This is a common area, so you want to protect that. See my video on fabrics that will effectively protect this area, and, you know, put on a good layer of sunscreen there. A UV protective sleeve is great. Protecting the tops of your hands is also great, because these are areas where boom, 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 the sun's coming right in through that window, can still age your skin and have biologic consequences on the health of your skin. And also the side of your face as well. Other passengers in the car too, you know, are also at risk. And depending on where they sit in the car, that also will play a role, you know. And obviously on a day-to-day basis, there's going to be some variation in the overall abundance. So in summary, there are a variety of different types of glass. Some are better than others at blocking transmission of ultraviolet radiation, but at least for the purpose of automobiles, there's really no glass that's going to do it 100%. And namely, it's going to be that UVA that's going to sneak through, because it does bleed over into visible light. You need to be able to see in your cars, otherwise you'd be a hazard on the roads. And the reason this is important is not only for the general public otherwise healthy public out there, for just keeping their skin safe from cumulative lifetime exposure and taking additional measures, preventative measures against both photoaging and skin cancer, but for many of you who watch my channel and have verbalized in the comments, many of you are verbalized that you have photosensitive skin diseases like lupus, like polymorphous light eruption. You may be taking a medication that, when you take the medication, if you go out in the sun exposure and ultraviolet radiation exposure can cause certain types of rashes. It can make you very sensitive to burning. And it's usually UVA that is the component of ultraviolet radiation that is making you sensitive, with those medications. And so you really, really, you know, need to also amp up the coverage. So, you know, for people with specific skin diseases, this is really, really, really important information. But for the general public and for the otherwise healthy people out there, it's also important for you to not be going through, you know, thinking that you're safe in with tinted windows, thinking that that's going to protect you 100%. You still need these other preventative behaviors to really, really optimize a preventative behavior. It's a behavior, so it's only as good as the person doing it, and repetition is key. But anyways, guys, I hope this video was helpful to you all in answering some commonly asked questions that I get about glass and the windows, and like, why do I still wear the sleeves in my car? And, you know, is the windshield good enough? So hopefully this answers your questions and it was helpful to you. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.